Hello, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the panel on resilience and resilience hubs. My name is Colin Miller. I'm coordinator of the Oakland Climate Action Coalition, and I'm excited and honored to be the moderator for our session today. So thank you all so much for joining. The purpose of today's workshop is to introduce us all and to learn from each other on important topics of equitable and community-based solutions to building community resilience. We're going to hear today from the NorCal Resilience Network, Susan Silber, and learn about their network approach and their signature program, Resilience Hubs and Spaces. And we're also going to hear from several amazing speakers who will share their approaches and inspirational examples of community resilience in action here in the Bay Area. I hope that you will come away inspired about these innovative approaches and find ways to get involved either by joining the NorCal Resilience Network as an organization, learning more about becoming a resilience hub or space. And of course, the invitation is also open to join the Oakland Climate Action Coalition. We work together. So I want to thank the tech lead and Zoom host, Ruth Abbey. Ruth is really important in terms of managing the space today, and please do message us in the chat so that Ruth can provide tech support that you may need. I'm not sure if we have assigned a note taker. Do we need to take a volunteer, Susan?
Logan will be doing that. Logan will be taking notes for us.
Great, thank you so much, Logan. And do we have someone who is taking charge of reporting back from the space to the plenary group?
We'll make those assignments within each of the breakout groups.
Sounds good. Thank you. Okay, so I do want to also echo the thanks voiced by my auntie Penny Opal Plant in thanking my auntie Karina Gold from Segurate Land Trust for that opening prayer and land acknowledgement, and just want to also acknowledge that here we are, if we're in the Bay Area, in the East Bay, that we are on occupied and unceded Chochenyo Ohlone territory. Calling you here today from northern Huchen in El Sobrante. And I am really excited and pleased to introduce my friend and comrade, Susan Silber, who will share an overview of the NorCal Resilience Network and their innovative and amazing approach.
All right, thank you, Colin. So I'm just gonna share the screen. Thanks, everybody. So NorCal Resilience Network, I'm just gonna give a super brief overview of our network and what we do. We like to say, how can we as a society be ready for anything? There's so many multiple crises coming our way: climate, droughts, earthquakes, pandemics, fires. So we believe that the key to surviving and thriving is community. And as Rob Hopkins says, if we wait for the governments, it'll be too little, too late. If we act as individuals, it'll be too little. If we act as communities, it might be just enough, just in time. Because we know that the most vulnerable are at the greatest risk. And there's two approaches. We can build walls and fear and lead by fear, or choose a different future. So the NorCal Resilience Network is creating a decentralized network of sites and grassroots organizations to seed, amplify, and scale up community justice and nature-based solutions in Northern California as a regional approach. And we hope that eventually we can scale up this approach to introduce it to other regions across the country. So our vision is to transform our communities into resilient, self-sufficient, equitable, and regenerative places, rooted in racial and social justice. So our theory of change is that, first of all, how can we catalyze, lift up, and support all the amazing community-based organizations that are building thriving, resilient communities? So we have our Circle of Collaborators membership with opportunities to connect and collaborate across across communities, and featuring many different kinds of organizations that are building resilience. We host bi-weekly mutual aid calls. We have a really innovative digital platform where communities can connect and collaborate. And we have a membership directory doing really a mapping of who's doing what. And we also have working groups featuring Indigenous solidarity, conflict resolution, decentralized governance. And we do host as well capacity building workshops of fundraising, storytelling, racial justice. So our call to action, if you're interested, join our network as an organization or as an individual. Our next theory of change is how can we transform our community spaces? And you'll be hearing from Kristen Baja from the Urban Sustainability Directors Network. We have a partnership with them, transforming our spaces into showcases of sustainability and resilience through sustainability, preparing for disasters, and then at the center, building community. And our program features, we're working with sites across the Bay Area, supporting connections and collaborations between the sites. We used to help support work parties pre-COVID. Now we're starting to really dive into how we can support COVID-safe work parties. We distribute grants as well to these sites. And in the future, we'll be hosting a leadership development workshop and partnering more closely with local governments. So our call to action, join our fall leadership program and help support or start a hub in your own community. And we encourage you to support Oakland's Climate Action Coalition, Equitable Climate Action Plan, which does support resiliency hubs in Oakland. Here are just a few photos from some of the sites that have been doing amazing work in the past couple of months, just with a little bit of money, just doing incredible work. The Oakland Peace Center, Place for Sustainable Living. So third theory of change, how do we fund these grassroots organizations and these sites? Again, we've distributed some money to the sites, and our vision is to start a People's Resilience Fund so we can dole out, help to distribute millions of dollars for the hubs, the spaces, and the grassroots organizations. So just imagining resilient hubs in every community, thousands of jobs for community organizers, millions, billions of dollars for these programs, and everybody ready for what's at stake. So I'm going to pass it back to Colin. He's going to introduce our lineup of speakers. Stop my screen share.
All right. Thank you so much, Susan and NorCal Resilience Network. Really inspiring work. So I'm going to introduce the panelists for the first two questions of the session. And I'll be inviting our panelists to introduce themselves, the community that they're from, and the organization or institution that they work with. I'll actually be doing a brief introduction of each one so they don't have to fully introduce themselves, but I will be asking them two questions. One is, what does resilience look like to you in your community and in the context of the work that you do? And second, what is your vision of equitable resilience? And I'll put those questions in the chat so that people can kind of mull over those and have that visually ready for you. So our first panelist is Dr. Aisha Mays. Dr. Aisha Mays is the Director of Adolescent and School-Based Program at Roots Community Health Center and a professor in the UC Berkeley UCSF Joint Medical Program. In 2017, she founded the Dream Youth Clinic with the mission to serve the most vulnerable youth of Oakland, including youth affected by homelessness, the juvenile justice system, the foster care system, and sex trafficking. Dream Youth Clinic is a youth-led, youth-engaged, and youth-empowered space where young people are involved in all of the programs created. I actually just got my first COVID test at Roots Clinic because that was the only place I could find in the East Bay that had free COVID testing. So just plug and shout out to not only Dream Youth Clinic, but also Roots Community Health Clinic, where they're based. Incredible work. Our second panelist is Brianna Schaefer. Brianna is thrilled to be supporting her community through her role as the program director at Daily Acts, where she works alongside partners and colleagues to develop climate adaptation programs. Brianna sits on 2 Petaluma Climate Commission committees focused on developing and implementing Petaluma's climate action plan. And our third panelist for this question is Shayna Hirschfield Gold, my friend and comrade and counterpart at the City of Oakland. Shayna has been part of the City of Oakland's sustainability team since 2014 and is the project manager for Oakland's very own 2030 Equitable Climate Action Plan that is coming to a vote at City Council this Tuesday. Her work includes overseeing progress, developing policy, and implementing programs in support of Oakland's ECAP and climate justice initiatives. Thank you so much to our panelists. So go ahead and respond to those 2 questions. Let's hear from Dr. Aisha Mays. What does resilience look like to you in your work and in the context of the work that you do? And second, what is your vision of equitable resilience? Susan, do we have a time set for how much time each person has?
We said 5 minutes for this first question, and then
Thank you.
We'll go into Aja's question.
Great. I'll set a timer and let you know when you have 1 minute left. Okay. Dr. Aisha Mays.
Is she
I'm actually not afraid. I'm afraid I'm not actually seeing Dr. Mays in the Zoom. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, maybe we could go on to the next panel.
Let's go on to the next. Are you able to text them?
Yeah.
And okay, great. Maybe they don't have the link to the panel. Okay. Brianna, would you be willing to go next?
Sure.
Okay.
Hold on just a second. I'm going to share my screen.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, well, thank you everybody for being here and for inviting me to speak. I work for Daily Acts, and we're an environmental education nonprofit based in Sonoma County. We've been around since 2002, and our mission is to inspire transformative action that creates connected, equitable, and climate resilient communities. And I think the best way for me to respond to the question of what does resilience look like to me and in the work that we do is to kind of go through how we implement our work. And so, the first, we implement our work through 3 interwoven strategies for systems change. The first one being spreading solutions and models. And that's something that Susan's alluded to and that we've been doing since our inception. And we offer over 100 programs a year. And those look like tours, talks, workshops, garden installation events, trainings, and action campaigns. And our goal is really to give participants the hands-on skills, the resources, and the community connection that they need so that they can implement these solutions in their homes and in their neighborhoods. And we do all this work in partnership with our local agencies, our businesses, schools, churches, and other nonprofits. And really the success of our work is based on the strength of those relationships. This is an example of one of the models that we worked on in regard to fire recovery. We partnered with local landscape architects and permaculture designers to engage community members and to basically create free, scalable, permit-ready landscape templates to help reduce barriers for the rebuild. And so this is just, we installed 4 landscapes in Coffee Park, which was destroyed in the Tubbs fire of 2017. We did this with 75 volunteers in 1 day, sheet mulching, planting, and rolling out irrigation. It was a pretty amazing day. The picture on the left is, we have a partnership with our Santa Rosa Adult Education Program, and we work with students from that program to provide hands-on hands-on skills to complement their in-classroom portion. And this is a good smiling photo of before they started digging holes and putting in irrigation in the ground. So everyone was pretty happy then. This is another example of solutions and models. We've been doing action campaigns for over 10 years. And this year we decided to do a new campaign called Be the Change in light of COVID, wanting to just really build connection within the community through shared action and storytelling. And so we have 4 areas for people to get involved and pledge actions. And as part of our Grow a Garden piece, we partnered with a lot of local organizations and businesses to address food insecurity in our county and primarily support our Latinx community members through the distribution of culturally appropriate container gardening kits. And we've distributed 1,000 of those so far. And this is a great picture of one of our best partner, or one of our partners. I love her, Jocelyn Barada from the Botanical Bus Mobile Herb Clinic. And so, you know, great program, and we're looking forward to continuing to offer it. Another strategy that we implement is really strengthening our community leaders. And, you know, what we're trying to do here is, you know, train leaders who understand the interrelations of social, economic, and environmental justice issues. And we do this in, you know, many ways, first of which is through our leadership program for just and resilient communities, which is a picture of our 2020 cohort up above at La Plaza in Santa Rosa, which is a community site. And then also through our youth climate leadership program, Eco to School, which is new to Daily Acts from the Climate Center. And then finally, we've been doing this work for a while through our local coalitions and networks like the Environmental Health Network, which focuses on pesticide reductions, and also through Climate Action Petaluma. So our third strategy is to build public and political will. So we're really, at this point, we're looking to mobilize our community's power towards environmental and climate justice policies. And, you know, some examples of this for us most recently have been working with Climate Action Petaluma to, you know, ask the city to prioritize equitable climate action. And it contributed to the passage of the Climate Emergency Resolution in Petaluma, which was the first in the county, and also the development of the Climate Commission, also first in the county. And as we mentioned, we've continuing to work on the framework development and community engagement to ensure our whole community is feeding back into that plan. And then finally, the question of what does equitable resilience look like to us? And I think, you know, it's twofold. We want to hit our zero emission targets. We want to hit our carbon sequestration goals, but we also want to see the rapid spread of decentralized solutions and models like the resilient hubs that we're going to learn more about. And, you know, I think what this looks like is, you know, culturally appropriate food forests in every neighborhood, carbon gardening happening on a large scale. I'm so almost done. Decentralized water solutions like gray water reuse and rainwater catchment, and, you know, communities that are better prepared for the next emergency. So this is just one of our food forests. It's our oldest one, 2012, 3,000 square feet of lawn, now has 24 fruit trees, medicinal plants and herbs, and supports the community and the youth that are mentored inside of that building. So we want that everywhere. Okay, hope I answered the questions.
You definitely answered the questions. That was amazing. Always inspired when I learn about Daily Acts work, and it really comes to life through those pictures and stories. So thank you, Brianna, and thanks to everyone at your team and Daily Acts up in Pomo territory in the North Bay.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm really excited to introduce our next panelist. My friend and colleague at the City of Oakland, Shayna Hirschfield Gold. Are you ready to go next, Shayna? Shayna has been working nights and weekends, you know, as a mom during COVID. We're all struggling with COVID, but Shayna has been one of the most dedicated and hardest working people that I know. Her dedication to Oakland and to our communities is truly remarkable and admirable. And it's been an honor and a pleasure to work with Shayna very closely in collaboration on our community-driven 2030 Equitable Climate Action Plan that includes a lot of community-based solutions that came straight from the community, the over 4,000 Oaklanders who were engaged, 400 Oaklanders in community workshops that we led together, and 800 Oaklanders who participated in our community survey on the Climate Action Plan. And Resilience Hubs is one of the amazing actions that I think Shayna will highlight out of the 40 actions in this plan. So are you ready, Shayna?
Yes, I am. Sorry, having
No, it's
technical
fine.
issues.
It's all good. Are you
Okay.
sharing slides or?
I actually am not.
That's totally fine.
Old one, but
No problem.
the technical issues, we're just going to call them insurmountable today. So it is wonderful to see everybody here. It's an honor to be part of this summit and part of this movement, because it really does feel like a movement here. And I want to thank Brianna for what you're doing up there. My mom lives actually very close to Coffey Park, and I grew up in that area. So it's near and dear to my heart what you're doing. I've been living in Oakland for about 10, 15 years now. My husband grew up a few blocks from where we live. So Oakland is also very near and dear to my heart. So all of this work that we're doing it's so interconnected and it's so needed. I am going to try to stick closely now to the two questions. Starting with what I do quickly. I oversee climate planning, equitable climate planning for the city of Oakland. I've been with the city for about 6.5 years now in this role, and have had the honor of being the project manager for developing our 2030 Equitable Climate Action Plan, which honestly we started working on about 3 years ago, and started this incredible public engagement process about 1.5 years ago, working very closely with Colin and the Oakland Climate Action Coalition, Environmental Justice Solutions, Blue Star Integrative Studios, and others to lead this community engagement process, very, very focused on frontline communities, very attentive to not looking at this issue narrowly, but really understanding that the climate crisis is profoundly intersectional and is profoundly interwoven with every aspect of our lives and every aspect of our communities. And so I think with that, I will dive into these questions about what is resilience to me. So what does resilience look like? To me, it pertains to both the individual and the community level at the same time. So it's about feeling safe on an individual level, and about the community, however you define your community, feeling safe. Noting the interconnections, noting that individuals and communities need to be connected to the resources and access to opportunity that they need, that you need in normal times, and being able to access the resources that they need, that you need to recover from disasters and emergencies and ongoing stresses when they arise. It's also looking at who's most at risk, who is most impacted. This is something that is absolutely central to our work in developing the City of Oakland's approach to climate equity and our Equitable Climate Action Plan. Who is impacted first and foremost, who are on the front lines of the climate crisis and of all the predeterminants of the climate crisis, and who stands to benefit the most. And here I really kind of tap into our race and equity department. Oakland is fortunate to have a Department of Race and Equity. And one of the things that the director of that department says often is that if you attend to the needs of those communities that are most impacted, that have been most underserved, that are being most harmed by structural issues, you are going to attend to the needs of the entire community. And that's a really important way to think about this work. It's looking at bills, it's looking at infrastructure, it's looking at air quality, it's looking at all of the ways in which you define access to needed resources. And it's also looking at appropriate roles, because there are so many partners working in many, many different spheres. And I think we're going to come back to that later. What is my vision of equitable resilience? Beyond what I just said, I think it's really simple. It's, you know, what you look like, your heritage, your language, who you love, what you believe. Those things should not impact your ability to access those things I was just talking about. It shouldn't influence how safe you feel in disaster times, and it shouldn't impact your ability to access resources and opportunity and well-being in normal times. And, you know, I could riff on that in a million different ways. So could everybody in this room. But to me, it really comes down to those tenets. So I think I'll actually end there, because I know we're going to talk more specifically later about how we think about resilience hubs. And that's what I kind of want to focus on a little bit more.
Thank you so much, Shayna. Oakland is very lucky to have you in the position that you're in at the city. So thank you very much.
Thanks.
All right. Really grateful that our next panelist, Dr. Aisha Mays, is in the space. Welcome, Dr. Mays. Thank you for being here. I made a shout out to you, Dream Youth Clinic, and to Roots earlier, because I was just at Roots 2 days ago getting my COVID testing done. And they're the only free, non-insurance based, you know, COVID testing site that I could find in the whole East Bay. So just incredible work that you all do there. The questions for you are, first, what does resilience look like to you in your community and in the context of the work that you do? And second, what is your vision personally of equitable resilience? So thank you, Aisha. I'll be timing you. You have 5 minutes.
Great.
I'll let you know when you have a minute left.
Okay, perfect. Hi, everyone. Thank you. Sorry for my tardiness. I was presenting one of our other programs at a county meeting earlier. And thank you so everyone for being here. And thanks so much for having me as a panelist. And so my name is Dr. Aisha Mays. I'm the Director for Adolescent and School-Based Services for Roots Community Health Center, and the founding medical director of our youth clinics, the Dream Youth Clinics in downtown Oakland. We are in the homeless youth shelters in Oakland, Dreamcatcher, which is the 13 to 18 shelter, and Covenant House, which is the 18 to 24 youth shelter in Jack London Square. And you know, the notion of resilience, you know, I've been working with vulnerable youth for my entire career. And when we work with young folks who have experienced challenges in their lives, this word resilience comes up all the time. And we know that resilience is, I think about resilience as also as a proxy for strength. We know it means strength, and being able to be strong and strength and survive and thrive through adversity. And there is there's so much sort of honor in that, in people being resilient, and spaces being resilient, and youth are often congratulated, and there's so much pride when we see young people being resilient, and I feel that for our young folks every day. And the young people that we care for at our Dream Youth Clinics have taught me so much about strength through adversity, just by them showing up every day, and kind of the lives that they're leading. Just a little bit about sort of the demographic of our young folks. We care for about 95% youth of color. Most of our young people, over 50% of our young people, are from the Bay Area. We also have lots of young folks, especially in the past year, who are coming from other places, undocumented young folks who are staying in detention centers, and now they're staying here in the clinics with us. I mean, in the shelter with us. And they really are the examples of resilience, because these young people show up for each other every day and continue to be encouraged and vibrant and want to help in community, and they are still youth. You know, when I look on television and see things that are happening to young people around the country, and how young folks have been abused in different systems around the country, it breaks my heart because I love young people, number one, but also when you work directly with young folks, no matter who they are, no matter their circumstances in their lives, you still see that they are young and they are vibrant and they are dreamers, and no matter what. And when I think about resilience, I think about also, why do these young people have to be so resilient? You know, why is resiliency the kind of gold standard around? It's sometimes given like a label that young people have to have, especially youth who have gone through things. It's like, oh, but they're so resilient. So sometimes resiliency can be used to sort of explain away why we're not really caring for young people, because they're getting through it, right? We know they've been through so much, but look, they're still showing up and they're still taking care of their children and they're still caring for each other. And that is all true. And young people, and they shouldn't have to do it that way, right? They still deserve support. They deserve all of the caring and all the nurturing that all of our young people receive. All our young people who are connected to their families, who haven't experienced systemic violence, who haven't been at the hand of racism and sexism and xenophobia, right? They deserve all of that. Because our young folks are thriving through that, but they shouldn't have to do that on their own. So I have a love-hate relationship with resilience, and I thank you, Colin. So that's what I think about. And my vision for equitable resilience is leading with support. So what we do at our clinics is we lead with support. Yes, we honor and recognize that our young folks are resilient because they are here with us, but our lead is we are here to support you. So what can we do to offer you that all the time, right? Yeah, sometimes young people who have experienced doing it on their own often don't expect people to do things for them, so they don't ask. So we often ask, what do you need? How can we help? What can we do? And that is our sort of concept. That's my concept of equitable resilience, is leading with support. So I'll end there, and I'll talk more about our programs in our next section.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Dr. Mays. Really, really inspiring work that you do. Thanks for your devotion to youth healing and protecting the seeds and the seedlings for the future, the next generation, youth of the truth. And thank you so much for that work. So I will now be introducing Kirsten Baja, who is the Climate Resilience Officer with the Urban Sustainability Directors Network. And this next prompt for all the panelists is focusing on resilience hubs and resilience spaces. So Baja focuses their time on supporting members and partners in working at the nexus of resilience, mitigation to climate change, and equity, while also helping to center equity in their climate and sustainability work. Baja directly supports cities and partners in implementing resilience hubs across the country, including here in, well, I'm not in Oakland right now, but in Oakland, in the Bay Area, Shayna and the City of Oakland are members of the Urban Sustainability Directors Network as well. So Baja, I think you might be sharing your screen and presenting some slides. Is that correct?
So thanks so much for having me. The reason I am using the snowflake here is it's about 100 degrees on the east coast of Baltimore where I'm at. And so anything that makes me think about being cooler is making me happier. And also, I want to stress that resilience hubs in themselves are like snowflakes. There are no two that are alike because there are no two communities that are exactly alike. And the intention behind resilience hubs is for them to be completely based on neighborhood needs and community needs. Just quickly, USDN is a network of 240 local governments in North America. I am really, really lucky and privileged to work with these amazing folks. I could go for a whole hour about why they're so amazing, but I won't for today, just to say that you have some incredible people working in your area on resilience, sustainability, and racial equity. So our definition of resilience is to completely reject the NOAA archaic definition of resilience, which is bouncing back, and instead talk about thriving and positively adapting amidst our changing climate conditions. We really want to focus on enhancing quality of life. And I think our other speakers talked to how important that is in centering sort of the humans and ecosystems. The reason I'm giving you this basis is because resilience hubs are based on what we have as far as 3 resilience modes. Similar to the previous speaker, I have a love-hate relationship with the word resilience. I think it's used 40 different ways by 40 different people, whichever room you're in. To me, the definition is not as important as how it's used. And that is that these modes, we should be resilient every single day. Even if there is no major disruption, we should not be centering resilience on a hazard. Instead, centering it on people and their everyday needs, and the fact that there are so many things that are not being met in the everyday already. So how are we making sure that resilience is actually considering those everyday needs, and it's the primary focus of the work that we're doing to enhance community services and programming and relationship building? Then you will have disruptions. We're in the middle of a disruption right now. So you'll have to see that there are both short-term and long-term disruptions. The pandemic obviously is a long-term disruption, but we're gonna have multi-disruptions as well, where we have potentially a pandemic in addition to some of these short-term shocks. And so to note that there's disruption mode, and then there's also recovery mode, and that there are gonna be different elements of resilience in each one of these. But the idea for us is reframing resilience, getting out of the image that you see on the left. We tend to put the hazard at the center of all of this work instead of centering the community and community needs. And I think that's the most important component of what a resilience hub is. We're getting away from the cookie cutter approach. We're getting away from this idea of emergency shelters and opening shelters that are all exactly the same and ones that aren't thinking about people's needs. And rejecting this idea of just working with community in the disruption rather than in the holistic year-round approach. So resilience hubs are community serving facilities. They will have a building. So the hub itself will have a building. It's usually an existing building that's already trusted by members of the community. It's intended to be a space to coordinate services and programming for residents, and also about coordinating communication, distributing resources, and increasing community adaptive capacity proactively. It's getting, again, out of the idea of an emergency shelter. And I really, really want to emphasize that. This is not just an emergency space, and it's not about slapping solar and storage on top of a building and calling it a hub. This is about a holistic, comprehensive response to community needs. And a hub is using a space that people already trust and retrofitting it in order to meet those needs. We have centered our resilience hubs around these 5 key areas. Again, there is no one size fits all. And so I don't give a bunch of case studies of this is what one group has done, because it's going to be different everywhere you go. Some places are able to get started in resilience operations and power systems. Others have really great resilient services and programming already happening and need additional help in the communications and building space. So I put this in here just for you to know that these 5 key areas of resilience are what make up a resilient hub. It's the services and programming, which I think is one of the most important, and you've heard from other speakers some of the great work that's already happening in the Bay Area. But then also enhancing to have proactive communications and making sure folks know where to go and how to get access to what they need. The building and landscape, and that connects a lot with the resilient spaces. And then our power systems and our operations. And I spend a lot of time working with communities and some of our members and identifying what folks need in all 5 of these areas. So this image here is sort of breaking down, as I mentioned, the 3 modes of resilience. And then in these 5 main header categories, identifying what folks need in each one of these spaces. So in normal function, what are the food services needed? What are the child and pet care needed? What are the education needs needed? But understanding that those change and adjust during disruption and during recovery. And so we spend a lot of time going through with communities and identifying what their needs are in each one of these areas and in each one of the modes, so that it gives us sort of a guiding framework for what to work towards. It also allows government to bring in other stakeholders who are going to be able to provide these resources that are not going to come from government, and to shift the power away from government into the hands of the community-based organizations and community members. I also want to mention that there'll be some talk about resilient spaces today, and we're trying to partner resilient spaces with the resilience hubs. The differences being that the resilient spaces are really intended to be connected with a resilience hub, often in a physical and social way. They're intended to be these neighborhood and community spaces that enhance resilience through community gardening, community managed open space, providing of shade, and supporting green infrastructure as a component of the resilience hub, but they're not the physical building itself. They're often the complementary element to the resilience hub. They can also be virtual spaces. Both hubs and resilient spaces can be virtual and working together, and we're seeing that across the country right now with COVID. Just for some quick resources, if you're looking for additional information outside of this presentation, because this is a 45-minute presentation shoved into 10 minutes, you can go to resilience-hub.org. Everything I'm talking about as far as what hubs are, why we should focus on them, and how to do so is on this website, as well as a guidance document for step-by-step moving forward in the ways that we've found to be successful in structuring hubs thus far, understanding that there's going to be a lot of changes as we move forward. Also, hubs in a pandemic is something I've been asked a lot about. There was an article that was put out, just an opinion piece about how they could be helpful in response. Thinking about, you know, as it was mentioned earlier by Colin, getting access to community-based testing. Really important if we can have a already structured location in a neighborhood where people know that they can go to, that they trust. Having these be neighborhood distribution centers for a lot of the elements that are really hard to come by. Having these be locations for coordinating childcare and meals. So I won't read this to you, but essentially think of these hubs as locations that can help as a focal point in a neighborhood for doing so many of the things that we need in the midst of the pandemic. There are a lot of resources that we've created to support you in getting through creating hubs. There's just the basic sort of intro, as I mentioned, the step-by-step guidance. Below the step-by-step guidance, there is also this, it's not really a toolkit, it's an Excel spreadsheet because we wanted it to be editable by everybody, to be able to go in and identify who should be on your project team, your site team, what are the program goals, what are the opportunities for education for youth and youth leadership, how to do survey assessments, kitchen assessments, other things like that. So this isn't an Excel tool essentially so everybody can use it, but really it's just an Excel spreadsheet with lots of tabs. Because I'm not in the world of tool making. Also just making the case, these are really great for focusing on, again, as I think it was mentioned before, equitable resilience. Making sure that we're prioritizing our frontline communities. We're prioritizing the areas that have been disinvested in intentionally. We're addressing our racist policies and practices in government and really actively shifting power away from government into the hands of communities to be able to reduce stress on systems and infrastructure, but also to help with the building that proactive community adaptive capacity. So there's a big return on investment. We are actually creating an entire sort of supplementary guidance that's supporting where the financial benefits are for investing in these, and then also some resources for investing in them. But I will say they're centered on power shifting, and the real piece is all of these different opportunities can be centered and focused into a hub. And so just to know, youth engagement, renewable energy, training on tools, tool checkouts, access to resources, job generation, all kinds of opportunities can be funneled into a site that people already trust and go to instead of 20 different initiatives coming in from 20 different places. We are seeing hubs around the country and in Canada, and NorCal Resilience Network is who we're working up in this region with. But just to note that this is not happening just in Northern California, it's kind of happening all over North America right now, including in Hawaii. And so we have a lot of partners that we're working with. And if you would like any additional information, my email is there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Baja. We're grateful to have you as such a knowledgeable and committed partner with us here in the Bay, and your relationship that is held with Susan Silber and NorCal Resilience Network. And appreciate you for being a resource and an advocate, especially on the financial returns as an argument. I think that's really compelling and really interesting for us to reflect on how we can move that forwards. So we do have a second round of questions, and this is regarding, how we can best facilitate collaborations between local government agencies and grassroots organizations so that we can scale up resilience hubs and spaces everywhere. So I'd like to hear from Shayna in response to Baja's presentation and what Dr. Mays and Brianna also shared, but can you share with us, please, Shayna, about the City of Oakland's role in creating more resilience hubs and resilient spaces as it regards to the action in the Equitable Climate Action Plan? And how might these kinds of sites and Oakland, in the case of where you're working and sitting, collaborate to scale up and fund this kind of model? And if you wouldn't mind also sharing briefly about the Oakland Climate Action Network as a really innovative and exciting, unprecedented model that's been celebrated and lauded by the city's Race and Equity Department, how that fits together. Love to hear about that as well.
Okay, so how long do we have for this? That was a bunch of stuff.
There was. Actually, we don't have a lot of time because I think we're supposed to go into breakout sessions in 10 minutes. So
okay.
I know that was a whole mouthful, but maybe just like 2 minutes.
Okay.
Thanks.
Sure. So let's see. What I'll start with, I know that earlier I mentioned appropriate roles briefly, and I think that that's something to highlight again here, because an entity like Roots Community Clinic, for example, brings something very, very different to the community than what local government does, and they shouldn't try to be each other, right? We all have a role to play. We all inter-are, and we have to respect those different spheres of control and spheres of influence and where the trust is. So the way I think about the city's role here is that it's about enabling and facilitating activity where appropriate, again within its spheres of control and spheres of trust, because let's face it, not everybody has great trust in or love for local government, particularly those communities that have been systematically disinvested in, and worse, for generations upon generations. Local government does have a very strong role to play in logistics and ensuring that infrastructure is there, right? I wouldn't expect Roots Community Clinic I'm calling you out of love. I just want you to know. Right, Roots Community Clinic is not supposed to fix the freeways to make sure that, FEMA can get in if there is an 8-point whatever earthquake, right? So, so we have to be looking at our appropriate roles. The Equitable Climate Action Plan, it is a holistic look at climate equity within the appropriate sphere of control and influence of the city. So the plan calls out specifically within the next 10 years developing 3 formal resilience hubs along the lines of what Baja was talking about. Kind of we think of those as like the level 3, as well as a distributed network a network of distributed resilience resources. And I think of that as very much like resilience spaces, but it could be so much else. It could be, helping churches and youth serving centers and after school programs with, equipping them with masks and other things that they can distribute. But that comes through conversation, that comes through relationship building. And that's not something that the city can, at the outset of this the 10-year period of this plan, say, here's exactly what that's going to look like. And so that's why we left that a little bit more vague in the plan. And I should also say that, a city plan like the Equitable Climate Action Plan really has to look at what is what we know we can commit to, which is why it says 3 hubs. That's not to say it's a cap, right? That says at least 3 hubs, because we feel that we can commit to that. We will still have to rely on grants and outside things in order to get those 3 hubs, but we feel that we can commit to at least 3 hubs, and yes, hopefully we will get more. But when we say hubs, again, we're looking at that full suite of a physical center that can do logistics and resource distribution and all of that, as well as be a trusted hub in normal times. Okay, so quickly, you asked about the Oakland Climate Action Network. That's one of the 40 actions in the
Yes. Just in like, I know, it's so unfair. Can you do it in 30 seconds? Just to leave time for other speakers.
So
Thanks.
Oakland Climate Action Network is largely about, it's about empowerment both of people and of grassroots organizations, nonprofits that are serving the community. So the city has not historically done a great job of partnering with grassroots organizations, and part of that is that it's just not an equitable playing field. And so one of the biggest things, one of several things that the Oakland Climate Action Network would focus on is working with the Greenlining Institute, Oakland Climate Action Coalition, and others to build capacity of small organizations that are serving frontline communities around Oakland to participate more fully in the policy process, and to to be more broadly equipped to serve their communities. So I could talk about it for 3 hours. That really didn't do it justice.
That was great. Thank you so much. It was not a fair question, but you were awesome. So thank you very much, Shayna. Brianna, I am going to ask you to respond in 2 minutes, and we're going to really try to keep time because I know our breakout session starts in 4 and 5 minutes. What's happening in the North Bay? Tell us about your plans for resilience homes and hubs, and how has Daily Acts been spearheading this movement? How are you scaling it up? How are y'all responding to the wildfires threats as we're approaching wildfires season during COVID? In 2 minutes. It's an impossible challenge, but thanks for doing your best.
These are so great. So I think basically we've been, as I mentioned, we've been working on what, I don't think we were formally calling resilient hubs, but we've been doing this for over 18 years. So, our focus is really building out community spaces that already have an existing building that the community goes to. A lot of what Kristen Baja was talking about. We focus on sites that are serving a diverse community that folks already trust, that are going there for some other resource or need. And we basically create the outdoor space that accompanies that and provides additional opportunity for programming, addresses potential food insecurity, provides medicine, and just kind of mental health. Really, these green spaces do a wonder for that as well. So we've been doing that work for quite some time. We have over 37 model sites developed in Sonoma County. Many of those are which we would consider resilient hubs. What we've been trying to do, and what we're trying to work with Susan and NorCal Resilience Network on, is kind of this network concept. I think what we really experienced during the fires, and really during every crisis we've been responding to in the last 5-10 years, is just kind of, regardless of the fact that these sites exist, there still is kind of this disconnection between them and absolute communication breakdown that happens in the event of emergency. And so how can we make these sites that are really providing different social services and just different resources to the community, how can we connect them to each other and reduce the siloed effect that can sometimes happen across these different roles that these hubs are playing. And so what we really want to see is this connection, a networking of the hubs that are available, and learning what other hubs want to be created, building out that network so that we're meeting as many needs as we can through these resilient hubs. And I think what we're really missing is kind of what Shanna's alluded to, what others have alluded to, is the funding. I mean, we really need to be we need to build out the social infrastructure to develop these sites and networks. We need to be supporting the grassroots efforts on the ground so that the community-based movement can continue to happen, because the government isn't able to do it without us. And we're only going to be successful if we're well funded and able to continue the work. So that would be kind of my 2 cents on it. And I think, you know, the fires, we're continuing to work within the networks of communication that we developed since the 2017 fires, to make sure that, you know, people are staying connected and we're not in a similar position to then. I think things have improved since 2017, but they can always stand more improvement. And so we're trying to support our community by directing them to resources and providing education on fires, and what to do in your landscapes and how to mitigate that as much as you can. That's all I can think to say.
That was great. No, thank you. Don't apologize. You're doing incredible work. Thank you so much. And you know, we've got your back here in the East Bay if and when the fires in the North Bay hit again. So appreciate what you had to share. A lot of wisdom in a very short amount of time. Speaking of wisdom, Dr. Mace, we want to hear about your work with the Dream Youth Clinic and how it's an inspirational example of a resilient space, whether or not you've been calling it that or not. We'd love to hear about the garden and your restorative justice programs. What plans do you have for the space, and how has your clinic been responding to the food insecurity crisis and to the pandemic? And it's 10:45, so I was alerted by this panel convener, Susan, that it's fine if you go over a little bit. We'll all benefit from sharing your story and wisdom. So thank you.
Okay, I'll just take a few minutes. Thanks so much, Colin. Yes, I'd love to share with you all. I'm going to share my screen too because I have some slides. What we are doing at Dream, and you know, it's when I met Susan and she told me about the NorCal Resilience Network, and I didn't think of our space per se as a resilience hub for but it really is a resilience hub for young people. We're co-located with Dreamcatcher Youth Services, the 18 and under shelter, and then next door to us is another youth community organization called Missy that works with young folks who've been affected by sex trafficking. And a lot of our work really goes hand in hand. We work with all the same young people. We are very close collaborators, and we're in a cul-de-sac, which I'll show you. And so we really are like a physical hub for young folks. And so it has really opened my mind and my perspective around thinking about our space as a resilience and strength space for youth. So I'm going to share my screen now. Okay, so some of the things that we specifically we've been doing around really thinking about sort of all of our space and being intentional around transforming our outdoor space to reflect the energy and the support of our indoor environment. So again, we're based in downtown Oakland, and we're in an area of Oakland that is in between two very popular areas, and we're kind of in a blighted area in between. And that has worked for us in some ways, and it's also been a challenge in some ways. It's worked for us in that we are able to really be able to be almost hidden in plain sight. And so we can be a really safe space for young people who, again, vulnerable young folks who really do need that safety and anonymity. And at the same time, because we are in a blighted space, we have externally, we have had all of these sort of challenges around blighted spaces, like illegal dumping and sort of, you know, people hanging out who may not be most healthy for our young folks. So we've been thinking about, we're actually kind of in the cul-de-sac, and this photo here is kind of the rounded part of the cul-de-sac, which is the BART. Actually, you're looking at the BART track, so the BART literally drives right past our space. And then on the other side of our building is the 880 freeway, and it's actually the intersection of the freeway. So we have two freeways and the BART train that in our little cul-de-sac, and our buildings are like they flank our buildings. So there's a lot of like environmental noise in addition to like environmental particulates. So we're just thinking about how to make that space more healthy. And there's this empty lot there. So again, we're Dream Youth Clinic. We opened in 2017. We serve young people ages 13 to 24, and we provide holistic healthcare services, including free medical services, mental health services, and health navigation, which is really a supportive adult, really being able to support young folks through their social needs. This mural that you see here was recently painted by Los Pobres Artistas, community muralists. They're also helping to kind of transform our space. We're part of Roots Community Health Center. So this is kind of what the space looked like before. And it's actually, this is kind of the second stage of before, because a year ago, the mural wasn't even there. So it was, so think about sort of a concrete wall that the BART drives past. It's really the BART retainer wall, and an open lot. And so this lot is actually like a 20 by 60 lot. This is part of it. And on any given day, there's some sort of trash that might be there, some dumping there, weeds growing, things like that. It's a very sunny space. And we've always thought about, it would be really great to have a space to sit outside and be able to talk to young folks, for young folks to be able to use that space. Young people are already in this space, but mostly like sitting on the ground or hanging out. And so we started to really vision with the shelter leadership around how can we, and also our community partner, around how can we maybe think about transforming this space. So we went to our young folks and started thinking about, well, this would be a great space for a garden. And not only to have a garden to be able to grow food for the shelter, that's what we definitely want to do that, grow food, young people being able to grow food that we can use in the shelter, but also using the garden as an opportunity to talk about this model of health is everything, and really bringing our clinic, our indoor clinic, into the outdoors. And so we're really calling it our community garden / outdoor clinic, and bringing that concept of everything is health. And so we can, thinking about engaging young folks around greening, around gardening and planting and self-sustainability, which they already know very well. A lot of them are very self-sustainable, and just them thinking about their own second steps or next steps around their resiliency. And so as we're building out this garden, we're thinking about every single moment of creating it as also as a moment of engagement and education for young folks. So we started with everything we do at Dream is youth-led. We are very youth-led and youth engaged. We always go to our young people first. We actually started thinking about this a year ago. So we did a focus group a year ago, actually April 2019, with our young people, asking them, like, is this something they would want to do? And then how would they want it? How would they want this to look? This is our second focus group that we did just a month ago. This is in partnership with Planting Justice. The photo here is one of my medical students. I also teach in the medical school at the UC Berkeley program. They came and facilitated a workshop with the young folks, a visioning workshop. And we wanted our young people to dream big. Like, what would they want this space to look like? Anything they're thinking about in terms of a green space, a park space, parks and gardens that they have liked to spend time in. We want to see that reflected here. And we wanted, again, them to think big, because often, especially the young folks that we work with, are often not provided the opportunities to think beyond, to imagine beyond their wildest dreams of something that they would want. And so will we be able to provide everything within their wildest dreams? Well, maybe not tangibly, but conceptually, we can bring in some of those elements. So we really just encourage our young folks to dream big. So you'll see here, they actually thought about all the elements. They thought about what they'd want to have in the garden. Thank you. And what they want to sort of put there. So this is a photo of like our partners who did that. We also, again, resiliency by design. So we are creating a water catchment gazebo that's actually going to catch rainwater during the winter. So you see that in our design here. These are our volunteer designers and our Planting Justice partner. And this is kind of a mock of what it will look like at the end. And our rainwater gazebo there, which we're hoping to catch up to 800 gallons of water. And I see I'm up at time, so I'm going to scroll through. So we've done some installation here. We've had, again, lots of the Chase Center, a good partner, had volunteered all of our, gave all of our beds that's here and actually came in and installed it. So we're thanking them for that. We've started with some workshops, and again, using every moment as an opportunity. We got donation from the Basil Seed Garden in Berkeley, and have done some seedling workshops, and so young folks have really been involved in that. We're also doing some design on our gazebo. We're actually going to be putting etching words into the sides of the gazebo, inspirational words. So young people have been doing that. All opportunities for, and today we're going to be doing a cleanup day with some partners through the NorCal Resilience Network. So we're so happy this afternoon we'll be doing that as well. So I'm happy to share more updates around this, but it's happening. So thanks everyone.
All I have to say is, wow, that's amazing. Thank you so much, Dr. Aisha Mays. It's such incredible work. It's an inspiration. And please let us know how we can continue to support your good work. This does conclude our panel of amazing leaders. I have to go meet with Youth versus Apocalypse to prep for meetings with city council members today to advocate for our Equitable Climate Action Plan. I would love to do a shout out, of course, to Shayna for all the work that she's doing right now in leading up to the city council vote in Oakland. If you are in Oakland and you'd like to support, please reach out to me, and I can share the link to our organizational sign-on letter and our individual sign-on letter as well here in the chat before I have to go. And of course, I welcome everyone to stay in touch with each other, with myself, if you want to get involved in Oakland Climate Action Coalition, and of course with Susan and the NorCal Resilience Network. So I guess am I just going to leave the space and everyone will stay in the room for the breakout session, Susan?
Ruth, can you guide us with the breakout sessions? And I want to again thank so much Colin and our panelists. Incredible work that you all are doing. Thank you so much for your time. And we look forward to further collaborations, further and deeper collaborations with everybody. So
thanks everyone. Have a good day.
All righty. So let's hear back just a super duper brief synthesis of your what you talked about in the breakout room. Let's start with breakout room 1. I guess it was combined with 2. Is that correct?
1 is on, 3 was combined with 5. So we have 1, 2, 4, and 5.
Okay. Let's start
we'll start with number 1. Susan, I think that was yours and my group.
Okay.
I had a wonderful discussion with John, William, Susan, and Faye. So big shout out to you all. Thank you for that space. The big kind of takeaways we left with at the end are that some government restrictions like zoning are preventing these changes that need to happen. We talked a lot about policy changes being the best benefit, and we need climate solutions. So working hand in hand with policymakers, and it all just comes back to building community. We are really, we were really focusing on building civic engagement, and how to get people to attend writing letter events. And yeah, I can pass it off to group number 2. That was kind of our synthesis. Thank you, everyone.
Logan, that was your group, I think. Do you have someone who wants to report back?
I can just take it on if that's cool with you guys, unless anybody wants to report. All right. So we had an awesome conversation. It was Robbie, Ken, Lynn, and Mary, and we really talked a lot about actually the microgrids and kind of the infrastructure and that kind of side of things and what cities need to be doing. And it was something that was really interesting to me. Mary is working on reclaiming and Reclaim the Power campaign, which is trying to take over PG&E for the people. And Ken is working on microgrids with 350. Robbie works on the Climate Action Plan for Fremont. And So they all had this interesting perspective about how we can't really have microgrids that people make themselves. It has to be run through PG&E, unfortunately, right now, and that's even more reason why we need to kind of change those laws and take back that power. So that was an interesting perspective. We talked a lot about just how to mobilize cities and get climate action plans to include resiliency hubs, and then we got a little bit into the funding. We talked about public banking and how that could potentially be a funding way to get money to people like NorCal Resilience and Daily Acts, who are already doing the work but probably need more funding themselves. So that was our conversation.
Thank you so much.
So I think the next one was room 4, and that was Lincoln's group. Did you guys want to, Lincoln, did you want to report back for your group or have someone report back?
I can report back, yeah. Just broad strokes. Yeah, we spent a lot of time talking about potential funding and resourcing models as well. I was speaking with DMT and Howdy, and DMT has a lot of experience working with corporations, and you know, there's potential ways of getting funded through foundation grants, which, you know, a lot of this work, some of it's already funded through that as well, but some more intentional outreach might be effective, as well as a potential, you know, modest subscription service for talks like this. I know this one was, you know, donation optional, but they mentioned that even on a fixed income, it's possible to have people chip in maybe like $5 to help give out grants. And then we also talked about alliances between grassroots organizations in order to put pressure on local government to implement the solutions that they've already demonstrated in their community. So basically with demonstration projects, those are both community facing and local government facing as one perspective. And I'll pass it back.
Great. And then that last breakout group was with Ishal, but I know that Ishal's mic was having problems. So does somebody from that group, Jenny, Kevin, or Ron, want to report back?
Okay. The importance of networking kept coming up. That Kevin is networking across the county borders between Marin and Sonoma counties, and Jenny just graduated from UC Berkeley and is back in Fremont, and trying to figure out all these different networks she can tie into that will help her get into resiliency networks. And let's see, there was another woman who left. And then Jenny mentioned that there appears to be closed communities, but when you look around and start asking questions and connecting with people, you find that there are these networks that are not connected, and so can play a big role in connecting these different networks. And there's a question about how do we scale this up, and I think I would question the framing of that. That, as was said, that we need to, by one of the presenters, that we need to talk to the community about what's the appropriate action and plan for that neighborhood. So we don't need to scale things up. We need to have more distributed action in the individual neighborhoods.
You know, Ron, I want to out you here for providing me with one of the best takeaways I've ever gotten from a conference. When you self-identified as a kinder, gentler prepper, that just made me, you know, really laugh. Or also there was Preppers Without Guns, and we decided there was a lot to learn from the kinder, gentler Preppers Without Guns.
We love it. Yeah, that's what resiliency hubs and spaces are. You know, there is some overlap with prepping, right? We know that, but kinder and gentler. I want to encourage you all, if you could all just super duper quickly, if you want to stay part of this conversation, stay part of this network, please put your name in the chat. Your email in the chat, and we could put you on our general mailing list, and we'll keep you engaged. We're going to be having some some more sessions about resiliency hubs, our approach to resiliency, and encourage you all to stay engaged. So thank you all so much.